Hey, friends. Today's episode is going to be a little more vulnerable, a little more personal. It's current, it's raw, and honestly, it's very scary to share. But I've heard from enough of you that when I talk about my own real life struggles, that it helps you feel less alone in yours. So here we go. I'm going to talk about why I keep building businesses I don't actually want, what's really driving that compulsion, and what happened when I finally let myself see the truth. So today is day one of a 90-day experiment I'm trying. And it dawned on me that the timing of this new experiment is clearly divine. But let me back up because there's a story here about how I got to this point, and it involves something that might surprise you, or maybe you'll totally relate. You're watching the Wow podcast. I'm Jennifer Robin. This conversation is for informational purposes only and is not medical advice. Full disclosure is in the description. Lately, I've been having deep conversations with AI. Yes, AI. Not asking it to summarize reports or do market research. I've been using it to help me process feelings, reflect back patterns I can't see on my own, and ask me clarifying questions that help me think through things differently. Now, I know some of you might find that strange, and yes, I realize AI can't replace a psychologist or a therapist. And although I shield myself from the news, I am aware that there's currently an AI company being sued over a suicide death, which happened under horrible circumstances related to an AI chat. I'm definitely not suggesting you use AI for severe personal psychological issues. And obviously, you need to use your own common sense and choose your platform carefully. So personally, as of February 2026, I have two favorites. I use an early version of a custom ChatGPT called The Architect by Robert Edward Grant, and I use Claude. And depending on when you hear this, there may be other great choices because it's changing really fast. But for me, it's been like having a really smart, unbiased friend who can help me see my own blind spots. It can tap into a ton of external knowledge in seconds, and it asks clarifying questions that help me process on my own. And honestly, it's really been helping me see patterns that I just couldn't see on my own. Does that sound weird to you? Am I the only one that does that? So, I've been journaling and sharing those journal entries in my AI conversations. Pouring out my current frustrations about patterns that I see myself continuing to get stuck in. And these are patterns that, even though I've discovered them, I have not been able to get out of the loop of getting caught up in them. So, one of my patterns is ridiculously overcomplicating things. Trying to cover every possible detail and anticipating potential issues and resolving them before they ever even materialize. Being hypervigilant, overworking and extending myself, working toward perfection, even though I don't even believe perfection exists. And you guys know that because I talk about perfection all the time, that it's not real. There is no perfection. So can you relate to that? My endless to-do list where 90% of the tasks are things that I just created for myself. Do you have that? Do you have tasks that honestly only matter to you? And things that feel urgent and important, but that literally nobody but you would care if they didn't happen? Because that's exactly where I've been living. Let me give you some context for why I've been in this kind of strange place. Last year, I experienced 3 massive days of loss in a row. I lost my mom, I lost my best friend Monica, and I got laid off from a job I truly loved. That job was remote and flexible and fun and challenging, and it fit my life beautifully. I could work from my outdoor office space, be in the company of my animals, and it gave me the structure and the income that I needed. Well, when I lost that job, I just kind of assumed I'd find another flexible remote position pretty quickly. I'm educated, I'm experienced, I'm skilled. So I started applying and applying and applying. I've gotten rejection emails, but mostly just silence. And those of you that are in the job market right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For me, at least, it just makes me ticked off that I go through these lengthy application processes that feel, to me, degrading and devaluing, knowing full well that AI keyword evaluations and personality test scores were probably essentially, crumbling up my applications and just tossing them in the trash before a human being ever even got to see them. And really, it doesn't matter how smart or experienced you are right now. Job hunting in this economy with this new technology feels soul crushing. And I absolutely know it's not just me. If you are one of those people that's going through this scenario too, I hope you hear this. It is not about you. You are not unwanted. This current way of finding work kind of sucks. And I'm in the over 50 age bracket, and I remember actual paper job applications and resumes. Talking to real people, not having technology evaluate how I appear based on type words on a screen. And from LinkedIn, I'm learning that some people are showing up to virtual job interviews only to find a robot instead of a person. I haven't gotten that far in my job search yet, but man, seriously? So, with the job search not looking fruitful, I leaned into my entrepreneurial inner resources. I'm smart. I have skills. Surely I can whip up a website and sell my own services, right? Maybe you've done this too. Maybe you've thought, well, if I can't get hired, I'll just create my own income stream. I mean, it sounds easy, right? How many of us have been sold that story? Online marketing self-appointed experts will scream and jump up and down about how easy and freeing it's going to be. But the actual statistics and real facts show that for most people, it just does not pan out like we hoped it would. Especially if you bootstrap your business together and you think you can rely on organic marketing alone, meaning you don't have tens of thousands of dollars a month to spend on advertising. I am incredibly good at project planning, planning businesses, brainstorming ideas, building websites, designing graphics and social media posts, covering tech, legal, logistics. And I have these audio and video editing skills that I know are in demand. So for me to start a new business direction seemed like it might be the next logical step. And I just dropped the job search altogether. But it's not that simple. If you think finding a job in 6 months is hard, try launching a new business and not only breaking even, but getting into profit in 6 months. Sorry, but that's unheard of for a small, bootstrapped business that doesn't have investors or outside funding. And for me personally, at this stage of life, taking into consideration mental, physical, financial, and time constraints, it truly wasn't a smart option. Oh, and remember, I also adopted 2 rescue puppies 6 weeks ago. And potty training and teaching them and keeping them happy and alive takes none of my time at all. Yeah. But for some part of me, even with all this stuff going on, even with my fully educated brain, there's still this drive to keep pushing business forward, to keep tweaking and trying different angles, adjusting branding or copywriting, or building more freebies or lead magnets. Now, if you've been an entrepreneur in the past 10 or 20 years, you know exactly what I mean. Trying to get a new service-based business off the ground and into profit is a lot of more, and basically doing the full-time jobs of multiple people all by yourself. And my body has been saying, enough, this isn't working for us. Me and all the parts and cells and bits of me are what I consider the us. Why do you keep torturing us by trying again and again in different ways? Have you ever had your body try to tell you something like that? Well, for me, it's been showing up as exhaustion, being tied to my computer more than I'd like, frequent, almost daily migraines, and neck and back pain. My body was just trying so hard to get my attention. And if you know anything about somatics, this is one of the ways you'll notice it in your real life. The nightly feeling of seeing all the stuff I had planned to do, but didn't, is emotionally crushing, even heavy feeling. And although I'm extremely skilled at it, in reality, the audio and video editing is my least favorite part of my own podcast production process, because my perfectionist push is so ingrained, it takes me more hours than I'd like to admit to edit a 45-minute episode. Like, when I do it in 6 hours, that's considered a short edit. And there's a lot of wasted time for files uploading, downloading, processing while I'm editing too, which is definitely not the best way to invest my time. I've been trying to force something that isn't aligned with my passions and values. And when you do that long enough, your body starts screaming at you to stop. So, I was journaling and chatting with AI about this frustration, and something became really clear. Through those conversations, I learned about something called CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And from my new friend Adrian, I now think the D should be in the parentheses because it's not a disorder. It's the way my body is reacting to real things. But for the sake of the show, we'll call it CPTSD. Anyway, this comes from repeated early childhood traumas. For me, this shows up in a few ways that I'm aware of, like having a hypersensitivity to being able to read the room or read a person in microseconds. For some of us, our nervous systems learn early in life that we have to constantly prove our value. We have to generate solutions and stay productive in order to be safe. So one of my patterns is trying to be the best, the top, the hardest worker, the most valuable, even when I'm the only person in this silent, invisible race of imaginary, deeply subconscious competition. And I've talked to friends who have this exact same pattern. Maybe even some of you. I've also known for at least a decade that parts of me have been secretly trying to prove that I am good enough to be seen, valued, appreciated, loved. It's not a fun place to be emotionally, and it's been frustrating to try to unravel and undo it once I finally recognized it. So I started down the path of exploring self-help, emotional healing, and energy work for a reason, friends. Years ago, I remember Googling the phrase, "How do you find happiness?" And one of my first professional websites when I started helping other people with EFT tapping was titled, "Rediscover Your Joy," because that's what I wanted to do. That put words to what I wanted to help others do too. All those years of self-work and mindset and belief work, I was working on things like self-esteem from early childhood trauma. And then I learned that another whole layer of psychology is involved. The nervous system, go figure, in constant SWAT team on guard mode. And just this week, thanks to AI, I discovered another facet of the protective gem I'm lovingly chipping away at. Apparently, one of the other things my nervous system learned was, if I don't keep building, something bad will happen. If I stop trying, I'll lose security. If I'm not constantly generating the next solution, I'm failing. Boom, plot twist. Where has that information been all my life? So for me, even when building businesses totally drains me, even when it hasn't worked sustainably for years, my system keeps screaming, but, if you just try one more thing, you'll finally have security and success and freedom. And it turns out that's not actually an entrepreneurial spirit like I thought it was. It's a trauma response in disguise. Seriously? Anybody else know anything about this? I know I'm not alone here. What do you think? Now, I want to tell you something about this podcast. You might not realize it, but this show is not a moneymaker for me. It's my passion. It's a pull. It's the truest thing in my life right now on a soul alignment level. It's also time-wise equivalent to a part-time, unpaid job. And I'm not complaining. I'm just giving you context. Creating and professionally producing a podcast is no joke. It's an expense of both time and money. I was able to realize my dream of starting this show about 2 months after the 3 days of extreme loss I mentioned earlier. Because my life suddenly opened up with space. And I was still in grief and shock, but unemployment helped tide me over, and I assumed I'd find another flexible remote job before the last year ended to take off some of the financial pressure. But that didn't happen. I even applied for jobs way below my skill level or interest level. Nope, not even nibbles, just silence or rejection. So there's been a ton of pressure to start earning money, right? And that pressure has been ginormous. So that's why I built a podcast editing service business. Not because I wanted to, but because I have the skills. I'm really, really good at it. And I thought I should. Because all the experts will say if you just build the right funnel, create the right offer, post on social media consistently, all the things. And I'm really, really good at starting new businesses. I made a beautiful website, created before and after examples from my work, gathered the testimonials, produced the audio and video ads to run on my own show. But here's what I finally admitted through those AI conversations, and this was the moment. This is when I knew something was deeply wrong. If I didn't absolutely need the money, that business wouldn't exist at all. And letting go of it would be an extreme relief. That was one of the questions AI asked me. It said, how would you feel if financially you didn't need this business you're trying to build? Would you still want to do it, or how would you feel? And my body and my gut was like, relieved, right? Full relief. Can you relate to that? You know, doing something not because you want to, but because you logically think you should, because you're trying to solve a pressure problem. I mean, on paper, logically, it all made sense to me. And all this pressure, trying to build something that isn't fully aligned while searching for work that isn't materializing, has been emotionally heavy to balance. It's had a cost on my quality of life. I started noticing that lately, creative writing has felt harder. I haven't spent as many cozy Saturdays under a fuzzy blanket reading and researching with a heavenly mug of mocha coffee. I haven't been moving my body as much. And I let my home physical therapy and strengthening exercise sessions slip. The things that actually restore me and bring me joy and keep me connected to what matters, all those got pushed aside for this endless to-do list of business tasks and the grumpy mood and resentment that built from it. And I kept asking myself, okay, I clearly see a pattern here that I'm creating. Why does this pattern keep repeating in my life? I felt like I hit a dangerous tipping point a few days ago when bedtime arrived, and yet I still had more stuff on my personal to-do list than most people would try to tackle in a single day after already working most of the day. I did some journaling combined with a powerful, honest conversation with AI, and something shifted. Some core concepts became clearer, and I was able to connect some dots in my life that I hadn't realized were related. And interestingly, a big one was not just related to trauma, but it was related to some inspiring, happy memories. Seriously? I've been focusing for decades on neutralizing the yucky stuff. I didn't know some of the good stuff created patterns and beliefs in my brain too. Did you know this? Am I the only one that didn't? I mean, how can something good create something difficult, right? I don't know. So I went to bed fully committed to this 90-day experiment, the one I told you I started today. And at 1 a.m., I woke up fully alert and started writing, like furious writing. I wrote for almost 3 hours. Or actually, I one finger tapped it on my phone under the covers, like a kid sneaking a comic book and reading it with a flashlight. Something shifted. Something broke open. And I'm going to tell you all about that shift and this 90-day experiment that I'm so excited about in the next episode. Because here's the truth. You want to know what I'd actually be doing if money wasn't an issue? If magically it just didn't matter at all? I would be reading, writing, researching, teaching, and facilitating emotional wellness and spiritual growth work. I know that's aligned with my purpose and my passion. That's literally what lights me up. That's what I'm actually called to do. I'm excited to welcome a thriving community around that work in the coming months. But right now, life has been clouding it out, or more accurately, financial pressure has been compressing my ability to see clearly and act from alignment instead of desperation. And to actually relax and have some fun, we all need fun and play in our lives, right? There is more to life than just work and trying to make money and survive. I know that in the core of my being. Do you agree? Or what do you think? Normally, I alternate solo episodes with guest episodes, but next week, I'm breaking that pattern because this story needs to be told together without any interruption. Part 2 is coming next week, and honestly, breaking my own rigid structure feels like part of the lesson here. Sometimes the most important thing is to let what's real take precedence over what's planned. Have you noticed any patterns like this in your life? Is there something you find yourself doing with fervor because you think you should do it, but something in you just knows it isn't right? What patterns might you be stuck in? And what could your body be trying to tell you? I encourage you to think about that, journaling about it with kindness to yourself, and just notice what comes up. I'll be back next week with part 2, and you'll learn about the little red lipstick lie and hear what my 90-day experiment is. Dun, dun, dun. Have a fabulous week, my friends.